Welcome to my tutorial. Here we talked about how to manage the storage space, and here we have the space consumption and configure the deduplication on a volume, creating quotas and quota reports and further. And for this we have required the data on tab, Windows 8, Windows Server, PuTTY and Linux side for client. Now we start with the space consumption and the thick and thin provision concept. Here we have the aggregate with the 91 MB free space, and now we create the volume on that particular aggregate, a full volume and a thin volume. Here we create the full volume of 30 MB space and just create the with the 30 MB with the thick provision, or we can say the full provision. Here we have the 30 MB full volume, and here is the space increases to the 121 MB. Now we create a thin provision, and now you can see the difference. What's the difference between the thin provision and the full provision? Here we create the thin provision of 30 MB, sorry, and now here we have the 30 MB full thin provision. Now go for the aggregates, and here we can see that there's only 1.5 MB space consumed by this 30 MB thin provision. Now we edit the settings, the permission settings for both the volumes which we export to our client side. The main concept is thin provision. Is that thin provision requires the less space. When we fill the data in that particular volume, it just enter the space. Now we go to the client side and now check whether the exports are visible from the client side or not by using the show command and the IP address of our storage space. Here we can see that the thick provision, thin provision are visible from the client side. Now we have to mount both the volumes in the client so we can access them. Here we make the directory and which we want to mount, and using the mount command, the IP address of the particular storage space, and then the directory path where we want to mount. Here I just put the wrong sorry for that. Here I just put the wrong path, so it shows an error, but I already done it on the background. So here we mount the thin provision, the thin volume, thin volume directory. After that we just create the volume. Now we go to the particular full volume and write the file of full volume to occupy whole the space, 30 MB space which we have available. Here we use the gd command to copy device and just put the file in that particular location for the full volume. It shows an error that no space is left on the full volume. Now we can check on the NetApp side. There is only 20 KB space available. Now go for the aggregate. It shows that 122 as the previous one, so there is no changes in this one. But now we have to copy a file in the thin volume, and we can see that if we just put the data, it automatically increases the size on the aggregate. We can notice this. We have just previously the 122 size on the MB, 122 MB on the size of aggregate. Now we can check. Here we have just 28 KB available space on the thin volume, and the aggregate size is increased to 150 MB. Now we configure the deduplication on a volume. It is just to reduce the consumption of space. For this we just have to activate the services, or we just have to configure the services, the sys services with the command line, and here with the on sys services, and start the services on that particular volume on which we want. We can check the status whether the services are activated or not. Here we can see that the status shows that and it is activated, and now we configure the sys services automatically, so that whenever it just turn on and off, it automatically configures the services active on that particular volume. Now we can check on that volume. Now we create quotas and quota reports. For this we're just using the nest volume which I already created, and now we create the quotas on that volume. Q3 for that volume. For this we just select the aggregate, root, aggregate, and then volume on which we want to create a Q3, and select the authentication as the NTFS. But I already used the NTFS, so for this we just created this one, and now we create the shares and select that particular path, root, aggregate 1, then volume, and now we select the tree and click on OK, and here we have the shares and the path. Now go on the PuTTY client interface, and here we can see the quotas. Where there are quotas, here we can see that there is no quota for our new Q3. Now go to quotas and create new quota for Q3. Just select the path of the Q3, root, aggregate 1, and then volume, and then Q3, and select the Q3. And here we have the quota limits. The hard limits are the maximum reach, and the soft limits, and then threshold. Here we set the 12, 8, 8 MB, and just hard limit and soft limit, and the while count is 2:1. And now just go to the finish process, and here we have the quotas. Now we can check out on the command line interface by using the command, and here we can see that the quotas are on, and we just read the files of the quotas, and here we have a quota for our Q3. Now go to the Windows side, on the command side, mount. Here we just map a network drive with the any letter and the path of the particular file. We just have the Q3, we have a filer, and put some data in that drive so that we can access this, but at least more than 8 MB, because we set the soft quota as 8 MB. Here we put the 9.55 MB files in that particular drive. Now we can check on the client side on the PuTTY, that there's just message that shows the soft quotas limit reaches. In the same way, whenever we just reach the hard quota limit, it shows the message on the PuTTY. Now we use the quota reports to check the quotas, and now we can also see on the NetApp the quota reports. It shows an warning that the maximum usage is more than the soft space limit. Now we added the quota limits. If we want to extend them, if we want to use the more than 12 MB, then we can edit the limits. Here we edit limits and space limits, and edit the hard limit to the 20 MB, and then save it, but it is not automatically. So for this we have just to do a single step. Go to the quota status on volume and select that particular volume, and click on resize. Now the changes apply. Now we can check on the command line interface by using the read file and say the changes are there with the new 20 MB file on hard quota limit. Here we have a quota with the 20 MB. Now go to the system logs. Whenever we just reaches to the hard limits, it just shows in the system logs, and that's it. Thanks for watching my video and for your precious attention and time. Bye bye.